My golden child brother tried to steal my wedding venue, then toasted me and said, "I'm sure my amazing brother doesn't have a problem with this." When I stood up for myself and said no, my mom called my vendor and tried to change everything in my name without telling me. That was 9 months ago. Today, my whole family is begging for forgiveness because I'm holding all the cards. I was at a family gathering with my fiancée when my sister-in-law announced her pregnancy. Everyone clapped and cheered. My mom cried. My dad poured drinks. It was one of those core memory kind of moments where everything is supposed to feel joyful and united. I really wanted to be happy for them. I tried. But then my brother Brandon stood up, gave me a smile that was just a little too tight, and said, "By the way, we saw pictures of your wedding venue. It looks amazing. We actually fell in love with it. And we were thinking, since we need to get married before the baby comes, we were hoping you and Violet could give us your venue." I laughed at first. I thought it was a joke. But then I looked at his face. Then I looked at my mom's. Then my dad's. And I felt the air shift. When I didn't answer right away, my mom jumped in with a little scoff and said, "Well, it's just a date. You and Violet can always push yours back a little. Brandon and Selma are on a tighter timeline." I didn't say anything. I was in shock. My fiancée squeezed my hand under the table. I think she was waiting for me to speak up, but honestly, I didn't know what to say. Especially when Brandon chimed in with, "I'm sure my amazing brother doesn't have a problem with this." He even raised his glass to toast me. But then, for the first time in my life, I grew a backbone. I said no. They weren't having our venue, and if they thought they were, they could shove it. Instantly, my sister-in-law's tears started. She said I was ruining their wedding. My brother was hugging her, shooting daggers at me. My mom was trying to pull me aside for a little chat. It was chaos. So much chaos that me and my fiancée Violet didn't even stay. We left promptly. Of course, the next day, Brandon called me. He sounded desperate. Said he and Selma couldn't imagine getting married anywhere else. I stood my ground. I even offered to help them look for other venues. I sent over some that had similar vibes. He turned them all down instantly. "It's not the same," he said. Then my mom started calling every day. Sometimes more than once. She used every guilt tactic in the book. "Brandon has always been more sensitive than you. This pregnancy hasn't been easy on Selma. You've always been the strong one." It was like they were running a coordinated campaign to wear me down. And it would have worked. It always worked. But this time, Violet wasn't having it. She told me flat out that if I gave in again, she'd lose it. A week later, my dad told me they had already told the extended family the wedding date was moving. He said it like it was a done deal. No apology. Just matter of fact. That night, Violet lost it. She found out Brandon and Selma hadn't even looked at other venues. They were just waiting for us to fold. She said, they don't even think it's a question. They think it's already theirs. Before we could even do something, it got even worse. The venue coordinator called me, confused, because she got an email from Brandon pretending to be me. He was trying to get the reservation transferred. That's when I snapped. I called my mom and told her this had gone too far. She said I was being difficult. Then she suggested we just have a backyard wedding. "You two are already so established together," she said. "You don't need all the fuss." I didn't sleep that night. Neither did Violet. The final straw was the venue meeting. Violet and I had scheduled a final walkthrough with the coordinator. We showed up early, or so we thought. But when we got there, Brandon, Selma, and both my parents were already inside. They were with the coordinator talking about changing the layout and decor, like it was their wedding, like we didn't exist. When the coordinator saw me, she lit up and said, "Michael, so glad you're here. I was just telling them we couldn't make any changes without your approval since the reservation is still under your name." Everyone froze. Brandon looked like he swallowed a lemon. My mom turned pink. My dad folded his arms and narrowed his eyes like he was daring me to make a scene. I made one. I don't think I even planned to speak. It just spilled out. I said, "For once in my life, I found something that was just for me, for us, and you still couldn't let me have it. Not even this, not even one damn thing." My dad stepped forward and said, cold as ice, "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay your family? By denying your brother happiness?" That line hit me so hard, I felt my knees go weak, but I didn't back down. I told the coordinator nothing was changing. The wedding date was ours. The reservation was ours. And if anyone tried to mess with that again, I'd report the impersonation attempt. My mom looked like I had slapped her. Brandon tried to say something, but Violet stepped in and said, "No, we're done here." We left. I kept checking my phone, expecting a flood of angry messages, but there was nothing. Complete silence. That silence lasted a week, and then I got a hit that made me realize my parents weren't done. They were just getting started. I got a text from my cousin Jamie. She asked if everything was okay because my mom had been telling people that Violet and I were having issues and might be postponing the wedding. I was furious. They were still trying to manipulate the situation, just from a different angle. I called Jamie and told her the truth. All of it. She was shocked. She promised to set the record straight with the rest of the family. I thanked her, but I knew the damage was already being done. My mom was spinning a narrative where Violet and I were the problem. The stress of the situation was taking its toll on both of us. Violet and I had several sleepless nights discussing how to handle the ongoing family drama. We even considered hiring additional security for our wedding day, just in case my family tried to cause a scene. The The venue coordinator, who had witnessed the confrontation, was incredibly supportive and offered to implement special check-in procedures for our guests to prevent any unwanted disruptions. Through all this turmoil, Violet remained my rock. She reminded me daily that standing up for ourselves wasn't selfish, it was necessary. This is about more than just a wedding, she would say during our late-night conversations. This is about setting boundaries that will affect our entire marriage. Her unwavering support gave me the strength I needed to maintain my position, even as the emotional weight of family estrangement grew heavier with each passing day. I didn't hear from my family for almost 3 weeks after the venue confrontation. The silence was deafening. I kept checking my phone, expecting something, anything from them, but there was nothing. I tried to focus on wedding preparations, but the family drama hung over everything like a dark cloud. Then, out of nowhere, my Aunt Debbie called. She's my mom's sister and has always been the family peacemaker. She wanted to meet for coffee to catch up. I was suspicious, but agreed to see her at this little cafe near my office. When I got there, Aunt Debbie was already waiting with 2 lattes. She gave me a hug that lasted a bit too long, and I immediately knew this wasn't just a casual catch-up. "Your mother is devastated," she said after we sat down. "She cries every night." I took a sip of my coffee to avoid responding right away. Classic guilt trip. I'd expected this. "Look, I love you all, but this situation is ridiculous," I told her. "They tried to steal our wedding venue. Brandon literally impersonated me in emails." Aunt Debbie sighed and stirred her coffee. I know, that was wrong, but your mother thinks you've chosen Violet over your family." I nearly choked on my drink. "This isn't about choosing sides. It's about basic respect." She nodded sympathetically, but I could tell she was on a mission. Before leaving, she slid an envelope across the table. "Your mother wanted me to give you this. Just read it, okay?" I stuffed the envelope in my pocket and didn't open it until I got home. Inside was a card with a handwritten note from my mom, saying how much she missed me and how our family needed to come together during this blessed time. She wrote that Brandon and Selma had found another venue, but it wasn't what they wanted. The note ended with a request for a family dinner that weekend to heal our wounds. I showed the note to Violet when she got home from work. She read it carefully, her expression growing more skeptical with each line. "They found another venue? That's convenient," she said. "I don't trust this at all." I didn't either, but part of me wanted to believe they were finally backing down. Maybe they realized they went too far? Violet gave me a look that said she wasn't buying it. "Just be careful. This feels like another manipulation tactic." Despite our reservations, I agreed to the dinner. Violet decided to come with me for moral support, which I appreciated more than she knew. The thought of facing my family alone made my stomach churn. The dinner was at my parents' house, just like always. When we arrived, my mom hugged me like nothing had happened. My dad gave me an awkward pat on the back. Brandon and Selma were already there, sitting on the couch looking subdued. The first hour was weirdly normal. Everyone avoided mentioning the venue situation. We talked about the weather, my dad's golf game, my aunt's new puppy, anything but the elephant in the room. The tension was unbearable. Finally, during dessert, my mom cleared her throat. "We want to apologize for how everything happened," she said, looking between me and Violet. "We got carried away with the excitement of the baby news." Brandon nodded. "Yeah, man. I shouldn't have tried to email the venue. That was messed up." It wasn't exactly a heartfelt apology, but it was something. I felt Violet relax slightly beside me. "We found another place," Selma added. "It's not as nice, but it'll work." My mom reached across the table and took my hand. "We're family. We shouldn't let something like this come between us." I wanted to believe them. I really did. The relief of having this conflict potentially behind us was overwhelming. Violet and I exchanged glances, and I could tell she was cautiously optimistic too. As we were leaving, Brandon pulled me aside. "No hard feelings, right? We're good?" I nodded, though something still felt off. "Yeah, we're good." The drive home was quiet. Violet finally broke the silence. "That was surprisingly civil." "Too civil?" I asked. She shrugged. Maybe they really did realize they were wrong. I wanted to believe that was true. For the next week, things seemed to be getting back to normal. My mom called regularly with wedding questions. Brandon sent me links to Tuck's rental places. It felt like we were moving past the drama. Then I got a call from Jamie. "Hey, have you seen Selma's Instagram story?" I hadn't. I rarely check social media. "No, why?" Jamie hesitated. "You should look at it right now." I pulled up Instagram while still on the phone with Jamie. Selma had posted photos of herself and Brandon at our venue. The caption read, "Wedding planning day. Can't believe we found our dream venue after all. Blessed bride, October, wedding. October, our wedding month." "What the hell?" I muttered, scrolling through more photos. They were definitely at our venue. The same coordinator was in one of the pictures, looking uncomfortable. I called the venue immediately. The receptionist put me on hold for what felt like forever before the coordinator, Lisa, came on the line. "Michael, I was just about to call you," she said, sounding stressed. "Your brother and his fiancée came by today. They said there had been a family meeting and you had agreed to swap dates with them. They had your parents with them, who confirmed the story." My blood ran cold. "That's completely false. We never agreed to that." Lisa sighed. "I thought something seemed off. They were very insistent, and your mother was persuasive. She mentioned something about being a longtime friend of the owner's wife. Great. My mom was pulling strings behind the scenes. Nothing has changed, I said, firmly. Our reservation stands. Please don't make any changes without written confirmation directly from me or Violet. Lisa assured me she wouldn't. After hanging up, I showed Violet the Instagram posts and told her about the call. She was livid. They're still trying to take our venue after pretending to apologize. She paced around our living room, fuming. And they brought your parents as backup? This is insane. I called my mom, ready for a confrontation, but she didn't pick up. Neither did my dad or Brandon. They were clearly avoiding me. The next day, I received an email from the venue. The owner himself had written to inform me that due to a scheduling conflict, they needed to discuss options for our wedding date. He mentioned his long friendship with the Reynolds family, my mom's maiden name, and hoped we could come to an amicable solution. I showed the email to Violet. She read it twice, her face getting redder by the second. They're using connections to pressure the venue, she said. This is unbelievable. I felt sick. My family was still trying to steal our wedding, but now they were being sneakier about it. The fake reconciliation had just been to lower our guard. We decided to go to the venue in person. When we arrived, the owner, Mr. Hartley, was there along with Lisa. He was a tall, distinguished-looking man in his 60s with silver hair and an expensive suit. "Ah, Michael," he said, extending his hand. "Good to finally meet you. I understand there's been some confusion about the October date." "There's no confusion," I replied, shaking his hand firmly. "We booked this venue over a year ago. We have a contract and have paid most of the balance already." Mr. Hartley nodded. Yes, of course, but your mother explained the situation with your brother's baby. Family should come first, don't you think?" Violet stepped forward. "With all due respect, Mr. Hartley, our contract is legally binding. We're not changing our date." His smile tightened. "I understand, but perhaps we could offer you a discount for a different date, or a partial refund if you choose another venue." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you seriously trying to buy us off our own wedding date?" Mr. Hartley looked uncomfortable. "I'm just trying to help find a solution that works for everyone. Judith Reynolds has been a dear friend of my wife's for decades. Of course, my mom had been in the same country club as the Hartleys for years. She was leveraging that relationship to pressure the venue. Our contract is clear," I said. "If you breach it, we'll be forced to take legal action." I wasn't sure if we could actually afford a lawyer, but the threat seemed to work. Mr. Hartley's expression changed. "I see. Well, I certainly don't want any legal complications." He cleared his throat. "Your reservation will remain as scheduled." We left feeling victorious, but shaken. In the car, Violet grabbed my hand. "I can't believe they're still trying to take our wedding. What's wrong with your family?" I didn't have an answer. I was asking myself the same question. When we got home, I had 3 missed calls from my mom and a text from Brandon. Way to make things difficult. Again, I turned off my phone. I needed space to think. The next morning, I woke up to an email from our wedding photographer canceling on us. She cited a family emergency, but offered no details. An hour later, our florist called to say they could no longer fulfill our order due to a supply issue. By afternoon, our DJ had also backed out. It couldn't be a coincidence. I called the photographer directly and pressed for the real reason. After some hesitation, she admitted that my mother had called her, saying our wedding was being postponed and that she should take Brandon and Selma's wedding instead. Same date, better pay. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't realize there was more to the story. Your mother was very convincing." I thanked her for her honesty and asked if she would reconsider. She agreed, apologizing profusely for the confusion. The florist told a similar story when I called back. My mom had contacted them claiming to be helping me with wedding arrangements and said we were changing our plans. The DJ had received a call from Brandon directly, offering more money for the same date. I was beyond angry. My family was systematically trying to dismantle our wedding by poaching our vendors. It was calculated and cruel. Violet and I spent the entire weekend contacting every vendor to confirm our arrangements and warn them about potential interference from my family. Most were understanding, though a few seemed skeptical of the bizarre situation. On Monday morning, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Selma's mother, Patricia. I'd only met her a few times at family gatherings. "Michael, I hope I'm not overstepping," she began, "but I'm concerned about what's happening with this wedding venue situation." I braced myself for another attack, but her next words surprised me. "Selma and Brandon told us they found this perfect venue, but it was already booked by you. They said you agreed to switch dates, but now you're backing out." I explained what had really happened, how they had tried to take our venue after we'd already planned and paid for everything, how they'd pretended to find another place only to go behind our backs again. Patricia was silent for a moment. "That doesn't sound like what they told us. They said you were being selfish and putting a venue above family." "We've spent over a year planning this wedding," I said. "We've paid deposits, sent invitations, and arranged for people to travel from across the country. They announced their pregnancy and immediately tried to take over our plans without any consideration for us." There was another pause. "I see. I think I need to have a conversation with my daughter. This doesn't sound right." After we hung up, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe having another perspective would help Selma and Brandon see how unreasonable they were being. That hope was short-lived. The next day, my mom showed up at our apartment unannounced. Luckily, I was working from home, or she might have ambushed Violet alone. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the living room. "This has gone far enough." I closed the door, steeling myself. "I agree. You need to stop interfering with our wedding vendors. She waved her hand dismissively. That's not what I mean. Patricia called me yesterday, very upset. She said you've been spreading lies about Brandon and Selma. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Lies? Everything I told her was true. My mom sat down on our couch, uninvited. Michael, I've always known you were jealous of your brother, but this is taking it too far. Selma is pregnant. They need to get married quickly, and they fell in love with your venue. Why can't you just be supportive? I felt like I was losing my mind. Mom, they tried to steal our venue after we already planned everything. How am I the bad guy here? She sighed dramatically. It's just a venue, Michael. You and Violet can get married anywhere. Brandon and Selma have a specific vision, and with the baby coming, so do we, I interrupted. We have a vision too. We've been planning this for over a year. My mom stood up, her expression hardening. I didn't want to have to say this, but your father and I contributed to Brandon's college fund. We paid for his car. We've supported him financially for years. We haven't had to do any of that for you because you've always been more independent. I knew where this was going. So, I owe you? Not owe, exactly. But family supports family. You've never needed our help before. Brandon has. And now he needs this. I took a deep breath. Mom, I'm not giving up our venue. End of discussion. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Then I don't think your father and I can attend your wedding. It would be too painful, knowing you chose a building over your brother's happiness. The threat hung in the air between us. She was actually willing to skip my wedding over this. That's your choice, I said quietly. But our wedding is happening as planned, with or without you there. After she left, I sat in stunned silence for a long time. When Violet came home, I told her everything. She held me while I finally broke down. The weight of my family's manipulation and emotional blackmail was crushing. We're not giving in, she said firmly. If they choose not to come, that's on them, not us. I nodded, but the thought of getting married without my family there was devastating, even after everything they'd done. The next few weeks were tense. My parents stopped calling altogether. Brandon sent occasional guilt-tripping texts, which I ignored. We continued with our wedding planning, constantly checking with vendors to make sure nothing else had been tampered with. Then, about 6 weeks before the wedding, I got a call from Jamie. Have you seen the Facebook invitation? She asked. What invitation? Brandon and Selma just sent out digital invitations for their wedding. Michael, it's on your date, at your venue. My heart sank. That's impossible. The venue confirmed we still have the reservation. Well, they're telling everyone it's a done deal. The invitation says they're getting married at Lakeside Manor on October 12th. That's your date, right? It was. I thanked Jamie and immediately called the venue. Lisa answered, sounding frazzled. Michael, I'm so glad you called. We have a situation. Your brother has been telling people his wedding is confirmed here on your date. We've been getting calls from his guests asking about accommodations and directions. But our reservation is still secure, right? I asked, panic rising. Absolutely, she assured me. We've even implemented that password system you requested. No changes can be made without it. But we're concerned about what might happen if his guests show up on your wedding day. I was concerned too. What were Brandon and Selma thinking? Were they trying to create so much confusion that we'd give up? Or did they actually believe they could somehow take over our day? I called Brandon directly. To my surprise, he answered, Why are you sending out invitations for a wedding at our venue on our date? I demanded. He sighed, like I was being difficult. Look, man, it's happening. Mom and Dad talked to the Hartleys. It's all arranged. No, it's not, I said. I just spoke to the venue. Our reservation stands. For now, he replied cryptically. But things change. Selma's already ordered her dress. Our friends have booked flights. It's too late to go back now. I was speechless. They were creating a disaster on purpose. If both wedding parties showed up on the same day, it would be chaos. This is insane, I finally said. You're going to embarrass yourselves when your guests show up and there's already a wedding happening. Brandon laughed. We'll see about that. After hanging up, I called my parents. My dad answered, his voice cold. What do you want, Michael? Did you tell Brandon he could have our venue? Because he's telling people his wedding is happening there on our date. My dad cleared his throat. Son, sometimes in life, you have to make sacrifices for family. Your brother needs this more than you do. That's not how this works, I was shouting now. You can't just decide to give away something that isn't yours. The Hartleys understand the situation, he said calmly. They're old friends. They want to do what's best for everyone. I hung up before I said something I'd regret. This was beyond ridiculous. My family was living in some alternate reality where they could simply will things to go their way. Violet and I decided to visit the venue again to make absolutely sure our reservation was secure. Mr. Hartley was there, looking uncomfortable when he saw us. Michael, Violet, what can I do for you today? We need to confirm that our wedding is still happening here on October 12th, Violet said. We've heard some concerning rumors. Mr. Hartley shifted in his seat. Yes, well, about that. Your mother has been quite persistent. She's a dear friend of my wife's, as I mentioned. My stomach dropped. Has something changed? He hesitated. Not officially, no. Your contract is still valid, but I was hoping we could discuss a compromise. Perhaps a shared event? A shared event, Violet repeated incredulously. You want us to share our wedding day with them? Mr. Hartley spread his hands. The property is quite large. The ceremony could be held in different locations, and the reception could be coordinated. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's completely unacceptable. We paid for exclusive use of the venue. Yes, of course, he backpedaled. It was just a suggestion. Your reservation remains as is. We left feeling even more anxious than before. It was clear Mr. Hartley was feeling pressure from my mom, and I wasn't sure how long he would hold firm. That night, we received an email from him. The The subject line made my heart stop. Important update regarding your reservation. I opened it with trembling hands, Violet reading over my shoulder. Dear Michael and Violet, after careful consideration, I must inform you that we are unable to accommodate your wedding on October 12th due to unforeseen circumstances. We would be happy to reschedule for another date or provide a full refund of your deposit. I apologize for any inconvenience this may cause. Sincerely, Robert Hartley, Lakeside Manor. Violet gasped. He can't do this. We have a contract. I read the email again, rage building inside me. This was the final straw. My family had finally gotten what they wanted, or so they thought. I forwarded the email to my friend Alex, who happens to be a lawyer. Can he legally do this? I asked. Alex called me within minutes. Absolutely not. Your contract has a specific clause about cancellations. They can only cancel in case of natural disasters, fire, or other events that make the venue unusable. Unforeseen circumstances doesn't cut it, especially this close to the date. He offered to write a letter to Mr. Hartley reminding him of his legal obligations and the potential consequences of breaching our contract. I gratefully accepted. The next morning, Mr. Hartley received a strongly worded legal letter. By afternoon, he called me, sounding nervous. There seems to have been a misunderstanding, he said. Your reservation was never actually canceled in our system. That email was premature. Was my mother involved in this misunderstanding? I asked pointedly. He cleared his throat. I'd rather not discuss the details, but I want to assure you that your wedding will proceed as planned. We value your business and would never intentionally breach our contract. I didn't believe him for a second, but at least our venue was secure again. For now. That evening, my phone exploded with texts and calls from family members. Word had gotten out about the venue situation, and everyone had an opinion. Some supported us, but most sided with Brandon and Selma because of the baby. My cousin Robert called to tell me my mom was telling everyone I was trying to ruin Brandon's chance at a proper family by being stubborn about the venue. She's making you sound like the villain, he said. I thought you should know. I thanked him for the heads up. The narrative my family was spinning was frustrating, but not surprising. They'd always painted Brandon as the victim and me as the difficult one. The next day, I received a text from Selma. I hope you're happy. I've been crying for days because of you. The stress isn't good for the baby. I showed it to Violet, who rolled her eyes. The emotional manipulation is unreal. I didn't respond to Selma's text, but it bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Was I really causing harm to my future niece or nephew by standing my ground? The rational part of me knew this was just another guilt tactic, but it still hurt. With just a month to go before the wedding, things escalated further. My parents sent us a formal letter, an actual paper letter, not an email, stating they would not be attending our wedding. They cited their moral obligation to support Brandon and Selma during this difficult time as the reason. The letter also included a check for $5,000 with a note saying, "This should cover any deposits you lose by rescheduling. We hope you'll make the right choice." I tore up the check immediately. Violet hugged me as I processed this latest blow. We'll have a beautiful wedding with or without them, she promised. I tried to stay positive, but the thought of getting married without my family there was painful. Despite everything they'd done, they were still my family. I'd always imagined my parents being there on my wedding day, my mom crying happy tears, Brandon standing by as my best man. Now none of that would happen, all because of a venue. 2 weeks before the wedding, I got a surprising call from Selma's mother, Patricia. "Michael, I need to talk to you about what's been happening." I braced myself for more guilt trips, but her tone was different this time. "I've been watching this situation unfold, and I have to say, I'm disturbed by how your family has handled this," she said. "Selma and Brandon told us one story, but as I've learned more details, I'm realizing they haven't been honest." I was shocked. "Thank you for saying that. It's been really difficult. I spoke with your venue coordinator yesterday," she continued. "She told me everything. How you booked the place over a year ago, how your brother tried to impersonate you, how your parents pressured the owner. It's not right." I felt a wave of relief. Finally, someone else could see what was happening. "I've talked to Selma," Patricia said. "I told her she and Brandon need to find another venue and stop this nonsense. She wasn't happy, but I think she's starting to realize how inappropriate this has all been." After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Was this nightmare finally coming to an end? The next day, I received a text from Brandon. We found another venue, for real this time. No apology, no acknowledgement of the chaos they'd caused. Just a brief statement and a link to a different wedding venue about an hour away from ours. I showed Violet the text. She looked skeptical. "Do you believe them?" "I don't know," I admitted. But Patricia seemed sincere when she said she was intervening. We decided to proceed cautiously. I called Lisa at our venue to make sure everything was still on track and to warn her about this latest development, just in case it was another trick. "Everything is confirmed for your day," she assured me, "and we've implemented additional security measures based on everything that's happened. No one will be able to make changes to your reservation, and we'll have staff checking guest lists at the entrance on the day." I thanked her for taking the situation seriously. With just days to go before the wedding, I was still anxious, but starting to feel like we might actually pull this off without further drama. Then, 3 days before our wedding, my mom showed up at our apartment again. This time, Violet was home with me. My mom looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I hesitated, but stepped aside, to let her enter. Violet stayed close to me, her expression guarded. My mom sat down on our couch, clutching her purse nervously. Brandon and Selma found another venue. They're getting married in November. I nodded. Brandon texted me. Patricia, she made them see reason, my mom admitted reluctantly. She said they were being selfish and immature. I waited, not sure where this was going. Your father and we've been thinking we don't want to miss your wedding. She looked up at me, her eyes watery. We were wrong to pressure you about the venue. I got carried away trying to help Brandon like I always do. It wasn't exactly a full apology, but it was more than I'd expected. What about the letter you sent, saying you wouldn't come? I asked. She looked down at her hands. We were angry and hurt, but we don't want to miss your wedding day. I glanced at Violet, who gave me a small nod. Despite everything, I wanted my parents there. You can come, I said finally, but things can't go back to how they were before. This whole situation showed me how little you respect my choices and my relationship with Violet. My mom nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I understand. We'll do better. After she left, Violet and I discussed what had happened. We were cautiously optimistic, but still wary. This family drama had taken over our lives for months, and it was hard to believe it was really over. Do you think Brandon will come too? Violet asked. I shrugged. I don't know. Mom didn't mention him. The answer came the next day in a text from Brandon. Congrats on getting your way. Always do, don't you? We'll be there, but don't expect me to pretend to be happy about it. Not exactly warm, but at least he was coming. I showed the text to Violet, who sighed. Well, it's something, she said. Maybe with time, they'll realize how ridiculous this whole thing was. The day before our wedding, we had our rehearsal dinner. My parents attended, looking uncomfortable but making an effort. Brandon and Selma came late and left early, barely speaking to anyone. It was awkward, but at least there were no scenes. As we went to bed that night, Violet squeezed my hand. No matter what happens tomorrow, it's about us, not them. She was right. After months of family drama, I was determined to focus on what really mattered, marrying the woman I loved. The morning of our wedding dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for our lakeside ceremony. As I got ready with my groomsmen, I felt a mix of excitement and lingering anxiety. Would my family behave today, or did they have one last surprise in store? The morning of our wedding dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for our lakeside ceremony. As I got ready with my groomsmen, I felt a mix of excitement and lingering anxiety. Would my family behave today, or did they have one last surprise in store? My best friend Quinn noticed my nervousness as he helped adjust my tie. Dude, you look like you're about to jump out of your skin. Everything okay? I tried to smile, but couldn't quite pull it off. Just wondering what new drama my family's going to pull today. Quinn shook his head. That's why we've got 3 of my cousins working security at the entrance. Nobody's ruining this day. I hadn't told many people about the venue drama, but Quinn knew everything. When he heard what was happening, he immediately volunteered his cousins who worked security at various events. It was a relief knowing they'd be checking guests at the door. As I finished getting ready, my dad knocked on the door of the suite where we were preparing. When Quinn let him in, I braced myself for something. More guilt trips, maybe. But my dad just stood there awkwardly for a moment before asking if he could speak to me alone. Once everyone else had stepped out, my dad cleared his throat. Son, I want to apologize for everything. Your mother and we got caught up in trying to help Brandon like we always do. We didn't stop to think about what we were doing to you and Violet. I was stunned. My dad never apologized for anything. It's your wedding day, he continued, and I'm proud to be here. I'm proud of you for standing your ground when we were being unreasonable. I didn't know what to say. After months of fighting, this sudden change felt surreal. Is this for real? I finally asked. Because yesterday at the rehearsal dinner, you barely spoke to me. My dad sighed. I was embarrassed. It's not easy admitting you've been wrong. But your Aunt Debbie gave me hell last night. Said I was about to miss one of the most important days of my son's life because of stubborn pride. That sounded like Aunt Debbie. She'd always been the only person who could get through to my dad. So, we're okay? I asked, cautiously. We're getting there, he replied, extending his hand. I took it, and he pulled me into an unexpected hug. As we headed to the ceremony site, I felt lighter than I had in months. Maybe, just maybe, this day would go smoothly after all. The ceremony area looked even more beautiful than I'd imagined. The old oak trees were draped with simple white lights, and the lake sparkled in the background. Chairs were arranged in neat rows, already filling with guests. I took my place at the front, Quinn beside me as my best man. I scanned the crowd, spotting my parents in the front row. My mom gave me a small wave. Brandon and Selma were nowhere to be seen, but I tried not to let that bother me. The important thing was that Violet and I were getting married in our venue, on our date. The music started, and everyone stood as Violet appeared at the end of the aisle. She looked absolutely stunning in her dress, and for a moment, all the family drama of the past months faded away. This was what mattered, this moment. As Violet reached me, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "We made it." The ceremony went perfectly. We said our vows, exchanged rings, and were pronounced husband and wife without a single hitch. As we walked back down the aisle together, I caught sight of Brandon and Selma slipping into seats at the very back. They'd made it after all, though they'd missed most of the ceremony. The cocktail hour was in full swing when Lisa, our venue coordinator, approached me with a concerned expression. "Michael, I need to speak with you privately." My heart sank. "What now?" Lisa led me and Violet to a quiet corner. Your brother and his fiancée are telling guests that they're having their wedding reception here next month. They're showing people the boathouse and discussing their decorating plans. I couldn't believe it. Even today, they couldn't let us have our moment. I'll handle it, I told Lisa. Violet squeezed my arm. Want me to come with you? She asked. I shook my head. I've got this. You enjoy our guests. I'll be right back. I found Brandon and Selma by the boathouse, surrounded by a small group of relatives. Selma was gesturing at the windows, saying something about string lights. Brandon, I said, keeping my voice level. Can I talk to you for a minute? He looked annoyed, but followed me to a quiet spot by the lake. What are you doing? I asked. Lisa tells me you're giving people a tour of your future reception venue. Today, at my wedding. Brandon shrugged. We are having our reception here next month. Mr. Hartley confirmed it yesterday. I took a deep breath. That's fine, but today is our wedding. Can you please just let us have this day without making it about you? Everything's always about you, he snapped. You got the venue. You got mom and dad to apologize. You always win. I stared at him, suddenly seeing our relationship with perfect clarity. This wasn't about the venue. It never had been. This was about a lifetime of perceived slights and jealousies I hadn't even been aware of. Brandon, I don't know what you think I've won in life, but it wasn't a competition. I just wanted to marry Violet in the place we chose, on the date we planned. He looked away, jaw tight. Whatever. We'll leave if we're such a problem. I don't want you to leave, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. I want you to be my brother, to be happy for me like I'm trying to be happy for you and the baby. Something in his expression shifted. You're happy about the baby? Of course I am. I'm gonna be an uncle. That's awesome. Brandon was quiet for a moment. I thought you were mad about that too. Why would I be mad about your baby? He shrugged again, but it seemed less defensive this time. I don't know. You seemed upset when we announced it. I was upset that you tried to take our venue right after. Not about the baby, I explained, feeling like we were finally having a real conversation for the first time in months. Brandon looked genuinely surprised. Oh, I guess that makes sense. We stood in awkward silence for a moment before he spoke again. Look, we won't talk about our reception today. That was not cool. It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was something. Thanks. And congratulations again, seriously. You're going to be a great dad. His expression softened slightly. You think so? Yeah, I do. As we walked back to the reception, I felt like something had shifted between us. Not fixed, not by a long shot, but maybe the beginning of something better. The reception was in full swing when we returned. Violet gave me a questioning look, and I nodded to let her know everything was okay. She looked relieved as she pulled me onto the dance floor for our first dance as husband and wife. As we swayed to the music, I filled her in on my conversation with Brandon. It's not perfect, but it's a start, I concluded. Violet smiled. That's all we can ask for today. The rest of the reception was everything we'd hoped for. Good food, great music, and our closest friends and family celebrating with us. My parents seemed to be making a genuine effort, chatting with Violet's family and even sharing a dance together. Brandon and Selma kept to themselves mostly, but stayed until the end, which felt like its own kind of peace offering. As the night wound down, Quinn tapped his glass for attention. I'd like to make a toast to the newlyweds, he announced. Everyone raised their glasses as Quinn turned to us. Michael, I've known you since college, and I've never seen you as happy as you are with Violet. You two fought for this day, for each other, and that's what marriage is all about. To Michael and Violet. To Michael and Violet, everyone echoed. After the toast, my mom approached us, looking nervous. I have something for you, she said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a card with a check, a generous wedding gift, far more than I'd expected after everything that had happened. Mom, this is too much, I started, but she shook her head. It's not enough. We should have supported your wedding from the beginning. This doesn't make up for that, but we want you to know we're trying. I hugged her, feeling like we might actually be able to repair our relationship after all. As the reception ended and guests began to leave, Lisa approached us again. I have something to tell you, she said with a smile. Mr. Hartley asked me to let you know that your brother's reception has been moved to the garden pavilion, not the boathouse. He felt it was important that your wedding spaces remain unique to you. I was surprised. Did my parents arrange that? Lisa shook her head. No, it was Mr. Hartley's decision. After seeing your wedding today, he said some traditions shouldn't be shared. Each couple deserves their own special memories. It was a small thing, but it felt significant. One last affirmation that our wedding was ours alone. As Violet and I prepared to leave for our honeymoon, my dad pulled me aside for one last conversation. I'm sorry we almost missed this, he said quietly. Your Aunt Debbie was right. Some things are too important to let pride get in the way. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak without getting emotional. And son, he added, I want you to know I'm proud of how you handled all this. Standing up for yourself and Violet wasn't easy, especially with us pressuring you. You did the right thing. Coming from my dad, those words meant everything. Our send-off was perfect. Friends and family lining the path to our car, tossing flower petals as we ran through. Even Brandon managed a genuine smile and a quick congratulations as we passed. In the car, finally alone, Violet turned to me with tears in her eyes. We did it. Despite everything, we had our perfect day. I squeezed her hand. It was perfect because it was ours. As we drove away from the venue, I couldn't help glancing back one last time at the boathouse lit up against the night sky. The place had become so much more than just a wedding venue to us. It had become a symbol of our relationship, worth fighting for, worth standing up for, even when it would have been easier to give in. 2 weeks later, we returned from our honeymoon to find things had settled into a new normal with my family. My parents called regularly, making an effort to ask about our lives and actually listen to the answers. Brandon and I weren't best friends, but we were civil, which was progress. Their wedding went ahead in November at Lakeside Manor, though in the garden pavilion rather than the boathouse. Violet and I attended, genuinely happy for them as they started their own marriage journey. Selma even asked Violet for advice on handling pregnancy while planning a wedding, a small olive branch that meant a lot to both of us. Christmas that year was surprisingly pleasant. My parents hosted as usual, but there was a different feeling in the air. Less tension, more genuine warmth. When Brandon announced they were having a boy, I was the first to congratulate him, and his smile seemed real when he asked if I'd be the godfather. "Are you sure?" I asked, surprised by the request. "Yeah," he said. "Despite everything, you're still my brother, and you're probably the most stubborn, loyal person I know. That's who I want, looking out for my kid." It wasn't a direct apology for the venue drama, but coming from Brandon, it was close enough. As we drove home that night, Violet rested her head on my shoulder. "Your family's actually not terrible when they're not trying to steal our wedding venue," she joked. I laughed. "True, though I'm keeping an eye on them when we buy our first house, just in case." She grinned. "Smart man, that's why I married you." Looking back now, the whole venue saga seems almost unbelievable, but in a weird way, I'm grateful it happened. It forced me to finally stand up for myself and set boundaries with my family. It showed me that Violet and I could face anything together, and most surprisingly, it eventually led to a healthier relationship with my parents, and even with Brandon. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd given in like I always had before. We would have had a different wedding, sure, but more importantly, the pattern would have continued. My needs would always have come second to Brandon's. Violet and I would have started our marriage with a foundation built on resentment instead of strength. So yeah, keeping our wedding venue turned out to be about much more than just a date or a pretty boathouse by the lake. It was about claiming our place in the family as equals, not afterthoughts. It was about showing everyone, including ourselves, that our choices mattered too. And that lesson was probably the best wedding gift we could have received.